Welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast, where we talk about the struggles and celebrations that leaders and entrepreneurs experience on their journey to success. I'm your host, Kristina, and I'm passionate about helping you achieve massive amounts of success at work and at home. We'll talk about all things people and organizational wellness, share relatable stories, and feature insightful guests because quality people and processes are at the heart of every success story. Ready to learn, grow, and have fun? Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast. I'm your host, Kristina Schmitt. If you're on YouTube right now and looking at the video, you'll see a very different background. So here we are again in a very temporary office space as I am prepping my more permanent office. So welcome to my brand new living room. If you've been following some of the saga, I have been in process of moving for a while. We moved from Canada to Michigan. We're staying with my mom for a while we were looking for a home. And that was about 6 months, which was a little longer than I anticipated. But here we are finally in our new home. We love it. We put some sweat equity into it over the last few weeks and finally have got ourselves moved in. However, not completely unpacked. If you probably see a box over here. Lots of things still need to get put away, but we are here, we're working, and we're enjoying it. So lots and lots and lots of fun. But that means I get to bring the lovely podcast to you in this fun space, which is basically my kitchen counter by the living room. So this is my living room. I hope you like it. I love it. Anyway, as you can probably just feel, the stress of moving and trying to juggle everything. You know, I've got kids and running a business, moved from, a different country and now getting shop all set up here. There's a lot of overwhelm that I'm feeling. And it reminded me of the levels of overwhelm and stress that I would feel when I was a plant manager. So typically the way I felt on any given day was that I just had so many balls in the air and really so many hats to wear. And the reality is when you're the leader, especially when you're running the business, so you're a business owner, you're the top leader at a specific location, you are everything. Like you are ultimately accountable for everything that happens in that facility, that business, that area. So you are the leader. So you're coaching everybody, you're training, you're making sure that they're all developed and doing their jobs, and you're following up, you're delegating work, all of that stuff. You're also the sales team or working with the sales team. You're also the strategy setter and checker upper on making up words again. You're also dealing with customer issues, building customer relationships, dealing with all the fires that happen to go on with everything. You're probably a little bit of HR, you're a little bit of admin, you're a little bit of everything. So you end up like taking hats on and off and sometimes trying to stack them up on top of each other all of the time, trying to get everything done because it's all important, but it's impossible to get it all done. So I remember asking myself several times, and even in this situation that I'm in now, how am I getting it all done? How am I going to get it all done right now? How am I going to handle all of this? And the real truth is that you're not going to get it all done right now. You're not going to be able to do everything all at once. So we need to be able to attack these stressful areas so that we don't lose our mind, because we're really less effective when we're feeling pulled in all those directions. And when we're bouncing from one thing to the next, we're much less productive because that switching gears, switching roles, switching mindsets takes a huge amount of energy and time. So those are really in short supply, especially when you've got a lot happening. So whether you're growing or launching something new or moving offices or moving homes or countries or whatever it might be, you've got a lot happening, and you're running a business, you're trying to make everything successful, and it can feel very overwhelming. So I'm going to give you 3 steps or 3 things that you can do. You could do them all together. You could do one at a time, but 3 things that you can do and that you should do to help yourself through this overwhelm. So I revisited this as I've been in the state of overwhelm, especially in the last couple of days because we just moved in. So I'm going to share it with you so that you can benefit from it as well. So the first thing that you need to do, and this is helpful really whether you're feeling overwhelmed or not, but this can be very helpful just in general with prioritizing your time, figuring out where you place yourself as a leader or the business owner, or just really understanding like how your time should be spent. So this number one thing is clarify your role. So yes, you have a role that is leader or owner, founder, CEO, whatever that role title is. You have that role, but within that role, you have all of these other sub roles underneath of it. If anybody has done any Stephen Covey sort of training, part of what you do is define your roles within your current life space. You'll have roles like, daughter, son, father, spouse, family member, neighbor, community member, volunteer. Like you have all of these different types of roles and you have responsibilities within each. So just squeezing it down to your leader role or your current role, trying to really clarify all of the different sub roles that are within that and getting clarity on their prioritization can help tremendously. Because again, you cannot do it all at the same time. So you have to make decisions. And that's really the big part about being a leader is being able to look at a big mess and triaging it essentially. And your role might feel like that right now. Okay, so let's work on triaging. So I'm going to give you a process to follow to help you triage it. So the first step of it, if you have a job description, grab that out because that can be a great reference point to make sure that, you're hitting all the things. It'll make sure that, you're covering all the things that are on the list. But also kind of say, hey, I'm not doing this thing that I should be doing. It's a great starting point. Hey, while you're at it, if you need to update it. But grab a job description if you have it. If you don't have it, which I know a lot of business owners don't have it, just brain dump everything that you are currently responsible for. It may be helpful to use a Post-it note process with it. So get your wall out there and individually write out everything that you do on a Post-it note because it will be helpful in the next step. So if you've got all of your Post-it notes everywhere of all the stuff that you do, now look for patterns, look for some kind of a thing that ties them together because they're all going to clump into some kind of overarching category. So look for some natural clumping and just move your Post-it notes into the clumps that you see. Okay. Very, very technical terms. So move your Post-it notes into those clumping areas and you'll start to see something of a defined role come out. So like if you're a leader, you will likely see admin stuff, right? You'll likely see leadership things. You'll likely see sales things, maybe some marketing things, maybe some strategic things, maybe some project work, something like that. So you'll start to kind of see these different roles show up. So then when you're done, when you've got some roles defined, right? Like think in the realm of like 5 to 10 maximum, but really like 5 to 7 is probably where you're at and where you should be. If you're finding that you've got like 15 different roles, clump them better, right? Just you don't have to get so granular is what I would say. Or maybe you've got too much just in general. Okay. So like thinking 5 to 7 range is probably where you should be. From there, once you've got them defined, again, the titles don't matter that much, so don't fret about it, but just you need to kind of get an idea of where your time blocks are essentially, where your time really gets spent and how your time gets spent. The next step that I want you to do is once you have these things defined, I want you to prioritize them for what is the most important to the least important. And the reason we're going to do this is because there are things that need to take priority. And there are things that are more important than others. While admin tasks are very important, the likelihood of that being your very number one role as a leader is probably less because typically that's one of the first things that gets delegated out is like usually it's finance and then it's admin stuff. So those are the two things that likely are very important. Yes, in finance as a leader, important to be aware of, make decisions about, but not to be doing, right? So that's kind of the clarity point that we want to have here. So as the leader, yes, you need to know about a lot of things, but there's a clarity around what you should be doing and what you should be aware of or brought into decisions around about. So just be very clear with that in your discernment here as well. So get them in order, 1 to 7, 1 to 10 of your most important to least important. So then this is more belly rubbing than anything else. When you've got things in this most important to least important, how much time should you be spending in each? And this is like a percentage of time. So you have 100% of time, right? You can only add up to 100%. So put them in there. If you're saying 75% and 75%, okay, either you need two of you, which, it would be lovely sometimes to be able to clone yourself, but we unfortunately don't have that technology yet. You can't clone yourself. So you can only add up to 100%. But bucket that time, like what percentage of your time should be spent in each of these areas. So bucket that in there with the percentage roughly of how you should be spending your time. Not a huge amount of guideline to have here, but if you have a very top priority thing, you may be spending up to 50% of your time doing this very top priority role. But then everything has to, you have to realize that you have only 50% more of your time left. And that might very well be the case, especially if you're still very much doing things in your role. A lot of business owners, as they start to grow, they may have started as like the main technician in their business, but as they start to grow, they're going to have to drop some of that technician sort of role. But there will be a period of time while you still maintain it quite a bit. And you might be doing a lot of the day-to-day business stuff still. But there is a transition level there. So you should be doing less of it because you're doing all these other things as well. So look at where you should be spending your time. And then once you've just written all of that down, now I want you to look at your current calendar. Look at a month view, look at a week, look at something and get an assessment and get a feel for how much time are you actually spending in each of these roles. Are you spending enough time in the top priority? Are you spending too much time in the top priority? Because that can be very easy to do too. And really just get a feel for, are you spending your time in a similar allocation way? This is important because it's that reality check. Like, okay, this is where I should be, but where am I today? Then start asking yourself some questions. So I want you to ask yourself, am I allocating enough time to the most important tasks? If I'm a leader, am I actually allocating time each week to leadership things? So coaching sessions with my team members, time thinking about development and succession planning. That's probably not an every week thing, but you should be doing it at least once a year. You should be thinking about these things. That is part of being a leader. Spending time checking up on things, right? That is very much a leadership thing. You delegate things and then you have to figure out if the people have done them. So you've got to spend time checking. If you're not spending any time checking, then you're not getting that feedback loop to your team and they're not growing, developing, and they're probably not getting done the most important things that you want them to get done. So very critical time, very critical things to be doing. So really just ask yourself and be honest. Am I spending the time where I should be spending the time? And then start asking yourself, am I being distracted by these less important goals? By these less important roles in my role, and start to make note of that. I know when I was a plant manager, I had come from being the operations manager. So I was running the shop floor and the shop floor only. But when I became the plant manager, I also had all the administrative sort of things in office and the shop floor. But I really liked being on the shop floor. So I would tend to hang out in the production meetings, saying to myself, this is where my time should be spent because this is where, the money is made. This is where we're struggling. This is where we're having a hard time. But the reality is I would spend all this time there and I wasn't tackling the problems that really I should have been tackling. I wasn't allocating my time well between the two sorts of things because I had people that were meant to be running it. Yes, I probably could be there more often because if that's where the problems were, that's where I needed to be. But I would have been more valuable to go away, solve some problems with some teams, and then come back to it. But you have to assess, where you are in the season of your business and of your life and how that works. But looking back and, being critical of my choices in that time, I put too much weight on that portion of my role and didn't allow my team to do what they needed to be doing. and didn't help solve the problems that would have made all of that other stuff better. So be honest with yourself, be critical, take a step back and say, you probably don't need to be there every day, or I don't need to be doing this level of it. How can we make this look different? Then move it into action. And so these things, if things are distracting you, then ask yourself honestly, do these things need to be done? And if the answer is no, then stop doing them. If the answer is yes, the next question is, do they need to be done by me? And this is your delegation point. So there are likely a lot of things on your plate, especially if you have grown from, owning a lot of things and then now you've got a team that is doing those things. There are likely a lot of things that don't need to be done by you, but you just need to set up a checkpoint for them. So that might be a daily 5-minute, 10-minute meeting, stand-up sort of meeting where you're checking in and getting an update. That might be a weekly update, maybe an action plan update where you're getting like, okay, here's where we are. This is the problems we face. This is what we're doing to solve it. That kind of an action plan sort of update. It might be a report where you don't even have to go to a meeting, but you get like a data point that is going to help you. So you've got to look at what the thing is and then determine your best way to check on it. And it's got to be a best way that aligns with you and what you know about yourself. So like for me, I know if I get emailed a report, there's a good likelihood I'm not going to look at it. So this is not a great thing of mine, but this is a reality. So I know this about me. And I know a lot of other leaders, especially your creative type leaders, possibly ADHD leaders, possibly people that just really like to be moving and not necessarily reviewing. So possibly like your G's and your D's. So galvanizing geniuses, invention geniuses, those kind of geniuses are going to be less likely to want to sit and review something. Whereas somebody, if they have a T, they're going to be really good at reviewing it because that's a task that needs to get done. They need to do it. Ws might like reviewing it because they like to look at it, but it might take them a long time to review it because they want to sit and ponder and think about it. So you just have to kind of say, okay, this will work for me and my team. And sometimes we do have to do things that are hard. So if, the report is best for the team, you got to kick yourself in the pants and review the report like you're supposed to do and then move on because it is faster to do that. But you have to look at like how important is this feedback loop with it? Because if you're just getting a report, you're not getting real time back and forth on what's going on in the area. So it is important to make that assessment as to whether you drop and how you delegate and how you have that feedback loop. So I have belabored that a little bit more. I probably should do a podcast episode to give you more clarity on that. So we'll put that one on the list. So once you've done that, you have figured out what you're deleting, you have figured out what you're delegating. Now look at your week, look at your day. How does it feel? Okay, so this is kind of the time management portion of it, right? And we don't manage time, we manage ourselves within our time, but this is part of that, right? Understanding where we should be putting our time. So then make some adjustments to it, to your schedule. Make sure as you're planning, you're giving time to all the things that need your time, but not too much time. And maybe, not cutting them out if they are important for you to be doing, but maybe you just don't like them. So that's a great point around the planning and how to help yourself plan your week better. Now, you may do all of this and say, I still have too much on my plate because we're doing this project and this is changing and this is coming up and, this person's off because, they're having babies and, I'm covering that role too. And I'm doing all of these things. So the first step is very important and you should do it all the time. The next step is likely you will have to do this too because we like to do all the things, right? We are leaders. We entrepreneurs, you're creative, you're running this company, you see a problem, you want to fix it. So what we need to do is we need to determine what is the most important thing right now. So this is one of the steps that I go through with teams when we do strategy development. So this is one of those things that it just keeps the focus for everyone and it helps with this prioritization. So we've got clarity around our role, but now we need clarity around like all of the projects and all of the things that we're working on. So to use my life as an example here, we are moving. So yes, I have a business to run, but I am looking at my day as a whole because I work for myself and I can make these adjustments. So right now the priority is getting us into this home, getting the office set up. And so certain things get dropped off right now because this is the most important thing right now. I have a very clear date of where I want to get this completed by. So then I know I'm only postponing or putting things off until this date. Okay. And after that date, I now need to set that one aside. So, those last little piddly boxes that kind of like to live around your house for a while that probably didn't need to move anyway, those might not get unpacked. And that's why they sit in boxes for years and years and years, probably. But that now gets moved lower on the totem pole and something else will take its place. So how does this look in a work environment? The best way to do this is with your whole team. So come in collectively, understanding, your values, what your company does, why you exist, understanding some of these precursor things. Even if you've done all of that work, every 3 to 9 to 12 months, you're going to need to figure out what's most important right now. So come up with that collective thing. And there's going to be a lot of factors that make something most important right now, like moving, like a product launch, like a system change. So when we identify what's the most important thing right now, what we're actually doing is we're saying that actions that support this mission, actions that drive this thing forward, always trump other actions. So yes, you're still going to, despite moving, you're still going to have to get your taxes done. You're still going to have to do payroll. You're still going to have to look at your finances to make sure everything is going well. But those should be, a very scheduled thing that is happening, but we're not doing a new project around it. So if you already have something else that's the most important thing right now is not the time to do a system changeover as well, right? If you're launching a new product, stick with that product, all the energy and thought and projecty actions go towards that, and your system change will wait until it gets to now be the most important thing right now. So it is helpful, like while you're brainstorming and you're discussing this, to keep a log of these things that might, when you're done, hey, this is the most important thing right now. Here is my log of the next most important things that we will prioritize the next time we discuss it. Okay, so what's important here? Sit down with your team, clarify and agree to, and then communicate this with anybody else who wasn't in the room, what the most important thing right now is. And secondly, figure out by when will this most important thing be done? Because if you don't clarify that, then maybe when it's mostly completed, you're still going to kind of have it trumping other things that maybe it shouldn't be trumping. So be very clear with that date. So what is it? Everybody agrees to it. And by when will it be done? So it is a goal, right? It is, we call it the thematic goal basically, but what is it? Very clearly define what done is as well. Because again, like moving, you're almost never done, or like house projects, they're never done. There's always something that comes up. Same thing with, launching a new system. It's always in an improvement phase. So what does done look like? And that's how you know. And that's all part of that goal setting process. All right. And the third thing. So let's say you've done number 1, you've done number 2, and you're still struggling. So number 3 is get some third-party assistance. So speaking for myself is I struggle to prioritize, especially when I get overwhelmed, when I'm feeling like everything is just, everything is important, everything has to get done, everything has to get done right now. I benefit tremendously from just talking through all of that to just, okay, let's calm it down. Does everything really need to be done right now? I remember one time before I was a plant manager, I was still in operations at the time. I was like, everything's a mess and everything's going wrong. Nothing's working. And just by the sheer fact that I'm saying everything is a mess, nothing is working, these very like finite everything sort of statements tells me there's an untruth in there in my belief. And if you've listened to my thoughts, feelings, behaviors, results model, a podcast episode, you know that we have beliefs in our brains, we have beliefs in our bodies that we believe to be true. There are some that are probably 100% true, but there are a lot that are just beliefs and not necessarily true. So in this instance, not everything was broken. So just being able to talk through and having somebody help me look at the reality of what was really happening on the floor. We would go through, machine by machine and say, okay, what's really going on with that? Okay, you're running a product, nothing needs to be done. You're not changing over until next week or till tomorrow. That, you can ignore that right now. So having somebody help you to basically triage everything that's going on is tremendously helpful. I can't even tell you how helpful it is. I work with a lot of clients who they're feeling this way, and being able to just chat through with me, we can clarify, okay, what is this most important thing? Is anything currently happening around this area here, or is it just running? Okay, let's just put that down here aside. What's next? What else is going on? Is this working, or is this just, so we prioritize out like that, so you can start to see the forest through the trees, or whatever other thing that you want to say. But the reality is we can't do that for ourselves. I have, as a coach, I have this ability to do this for others, but I still need a coach to help me do it myself. When you're in the weeds, you can't see the big path and the big picture because you've got too many weeds around you. So you need someone to help you step up out of the weeds so that you can see the path and you can see the priority and you can see those things that are going to get you there. So this third party could be a coach, could be somebody like me that sits with you and works through some of these things. It could be a counselor or therapist, because maybe you just have a lot of stuff going on. A mentor. It can be a friend, but sometimes we lean on friends or spouses a lot to do something on a regular basis. If you're wanting someone to be there and needing someone to be there on a regular basis, sometimes the friend isn't always the right choice, just because they're your friend. Yeah, they're going to be a sounding board when you need it, but not on a regular, weekly commitment, bi-weekly commitment, that sort of things. Usually some kind of a professional or a prearranged, this is what we're going to do, is the best way to do that. And the best way to make sure you're not overstepping the boundaries of the relationships and all of that. They can help you sort through these first two actions tremendously, and then help you continue to move forward with it and to just get everything organized so you don't get into this overwhelmed state again. I do have something that I'm offering starting now. A free 60-minute call with me where we do just this, where we look at what is overwhelming. We look at what is going on in your business and talk through, what you should own, what you shouldn't be owning, what you should be delegating, what you should maybe be dropping. So we're going to work through that on a fairly high level in the call, but really get down. And the most important thing that we're going to do in this call is get some very actionable things that you can just go do right now. And that is so important to me. If you've listened to my podcast this many episodes in, the practicality of things is hugely important. And the action, the thing to go do, is so incredibly helpful, because once we start to do things, now we start the momentum. We can start to see a change. We see progress. And that accomplishment of something, or that seeing a result changes that belief and says, oh, things can be better, things can be different, and we start the momentum rolling. So this hour thing, this is a strategy call for owners, leaders, really the decision makers of companies that have grown. They've grown their company to a point, they've grown their business to a point that they're trying to figure out how they put themselves in. Okay, so what we'll do on there is we'll get some clarity around what's happening, what's going on, and give you some a big overall path to follow and some very actionable things to do today, this week, and get them into play. And it's completely free. You can go to the link on my website. It's KristinaSchmitt.ca/strategy session. Well, the link will be in the show notes. I think it's strategy session or strategy call. Strategy call, that's what it is. I got to write these things down. But go there. There will be a link on the homepage as well. And just apply to get that call, because it can be extremely helpful. There's no strings attached to it. It is literally just me trying to help very business owners and leaders and try to help save them from some of this overwhelmed feeling. And it makes me feel good, and it'll make you feel good. So go hop on over there. Or if you know somebody who might find benefit in that, feel free to share it with them and share this episode with them as well, so that they can start putting these things into action, because that is what I want for you. Is I want you to feel awesome in your business, feel awesome in your leadership, be effective and feel awesome in your life as well. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please like it, share it with a friend, leave a review or leave a comment on the YouTube, and I will see you on the next episode of the Business Building Blocks podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to the Business Building Blocks podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's next. If you found value in our conversation, please leave a quick review, like, or share. It helps us reach more amazing listeners like you. For more resources and insights, visit KristinaSchmitt.ca, where you can find tools and support to empower your leadership journey. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.